Welcome to the Secret Recipe Podcast. I'm your host, Mz.Skittlez. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Secret Recipe Podcast. I am super excited because anytime that I get to sit next to a mom, a boss, a wife, it just literally fuels me because I think that statistically we don't see enough brown love and happy families.
Yeah.
And I remember after my first marriage, I didn't think that I would ever get that either. I used to look at, brown families and I'm like, oh my God, am I ever going to get that? And once I got it, I seen how so many other women look at my family as ideal.
Yes.
And they always look at us as like goals and things like that. And I'm like, we are our own goals. Like every
Yes.
single day, we are literally fighting to become the best version of ourselves. And so to sit next to you, who you've done not it only once, but twice, three times. And you're killing it as also an influencer and inspiring
Thank you.
so many women. Like, how do you do it? And tell me where you started.
I mean, first and
Mattie,
foremost,
oh my.
I'm so excited to be here, Skittles. You're just such a light. Like anytime somebody brings up your name, it's with a level of energy and excitement. And I think that's really what it's about because that's how you are about your life. Like you can tell. Like you can't fake that kind of energy about your life.
Yeah.
And I think that was it for me. I think it was really important to me to make sure that I created a life that I was genuinely excited about. So when I created content about it, like you could feel that too. You want it to be contagious. And I mean, it's really such a great nod to my parents who just, they're not perfect, but gosh, they just really tried hard to give us a good life. And I'm so thankful to them for that, especially since now I am a parent and also doing that while being married. You know what I mean? Again, takes another type of energy,
Yes.
And that really was important to me. I can't remember a time where I didn't want to be a mother and wife, but I also wanted to be a star. I knew that I was a star. I knew that I would shine bright in any room that you put me in, whether I worked in retail, whether I was an influencer, whether I was an author, whatever I do, I always want to show up and shine. I want to leave the room better than I left it. I've always had that energy since I was young. And so, so many people often ask me, well, they'll be like, well, how did you know how to balance, family life, getting married? And I never had the thought that I couldn't have it all. You know what I mean? I really genuinely didn't. And maybe that naivete has blessed me.
Yes.
Because you can have it all, you can't do it all.
Yeah.
I understand that now. And so I really started, as a young girl, I wanted to be a singer. Girl, I tried out for everything. American Idol, making the band. I did all the things. Yes. Girl, I tried out for Boom Cat and
Girl,
Andre
you would have been
Harrell.
going to get cheesecake. Oh my God.
And I didn't even make it past the first round, because the way I would have folded when he told me to get cheesecake. So the Lord knew. The Lord knew. And so, I grew up in a small town from immigrant parents. My parents are Liberian. And so we always grew up in all white environments. We were usually the token family. My immigrant parents always thought white is right. And so we were usually always in all white situations until I left. I left school early. I didn't graduate college, which did not entertain my African daddy, but he's proud of me now. It works out, spoiler. And basically, I just went to New York and I learned how to hustle. I was auditioning, I was making demos. I really wanted to sing. And while I was, doing all of those things, I was a temp at the corporate offices of Macy's. And I had a friend who emailed me, and it was just this link. She's like, girl, you got to check this out. And it was a link to a blog. It was an entertainment blog. It was Cake and Ice Cream, by the way. It's not a site anymore, but it was Cake and Ice Cream. And every day this blogger was putting up news about like Black celebrities, all of our favorites, you know what I mean? And it was incredible. And I went to school for broadcast journalism.
Wow.
I wanted to also do, I always wanted to be on TV, but I really wanted to become the Oprah of sports. I love sports. I was the sports editor of my high school newspaper.
It is so many surprises.
So many surprises, right? And
I never knew any of this stuff.
I was like, I have to sit down and tell my story. So you're getting it here, Skittles.
Seriously, you have a treasure box of talent. Seriously.
But I always loved writing. I always loved sharing a story, telling a story. Journalism really helped me shape and craft my skill. But when I left school early, I was focused on music. And, I was in New York for exactly one calendar year. It taught me how to hustle. But at the end of the day, I was like, you know what? Let me go back home to my little safety net. Let me go back to my parents. I went back home. We were living in Pittsburgh at the time, and my maternal grandfather had fallen ill, and he was here in Atlanta. So I moved to Atlanta to spend the last few months with him, started working retail, and just ended up staying here, So ended up starting to build my adult life. I met my husband on MySpace while I was
What?
working at the mall. Met him on MySpace. We were like friends on MySpace for like 6 months before we met in person. And then, yeah, we met in person, started dating, and 6 months later, he proposed. And then a year later, we got married. And September will be 14 years that we've been married.
Oh
There's
my
so much story. I'm
God.
going to try. I know this is one episode, so we're going to try to get through
Girl, first of all, why is that not a headline? Met my husband on MySpace.
Every
Like,
time I tell
forget
people this,
Tinder.
baby, when I tell the girls MySpace, one, it always reveals my age. And then two, I'm always like, honestly, you can find love anywhere. If you are just open and you are genuine, you can find the right love anywhere. And yeah, he just, we were on MySpace and we met, and he's such an angel in my life. Like, I am obsessed with him. He is literally my favorite person. We tell our kids every single day. He always tells them that they're his second favorite because I'm his favorite. He's like,
Oh,
your job is to go find your first favorite. But he's like, you're here because of her. So he's like, she's my first favorite. But I think it's important for them to understand how much we love and appreciate each other. I think that's
yes.
really important because I also want them. My prayer is that they find a life partner that they can grow and build with, and I do want them to take marriage and partnership seriously. And so it's really important to me to make sure that they see on a consistent basis how much I love and appreciate and respect their dad. And I think that's something that's big in our household.
Yeah, so that's so deep. And it's deeper than I could have imagined at my young age. And now that I am married and I have, what people think as ideal,
Yeah.
the ideal marriage,
Yep.
family,
Yep.
household, how do you think that it affects women that grew up from a single mother? Like, do you believe that your belief in family or marriage or having that dream partner, you speak about not thinking about ever not having that,
Right.
right?
Right.
Well, I think my dream is different because I didn't think it was possible because I didn't see my mom.
Right.
Like, I'm 35 years old. I've never seen my mother loved properly, right? Never. Like, I've never seen my mom, who's no longer here, but I've never seen her in a relationship that spoke highly of her, that made her feel good, that made her glow. Like, I've never seen that. And so it kind of tainted my belief on
Absolutely.
relationships and what Black women deserve or what love looks like to brown women because I've never seen my mom experience that. And it wasn't until I moved with my godparents my sophomore year of high school
Yeah.
and I seen, which were my cousins at the time, that they became my godparents. And then I seen like, whoa, this is a marriage. They don't argue. Wait, he's not looking at what? Oh wow, like it changed my dynamic of my relationship. But I also was raised by my real father was an activist, right? And so a part of me seeing a Black man that was fighting for Black people's
Yeah.
rights
Yeah.
get canceled and tore down and by not only all other different races but also Black people. So it changed my dynamic really young to be like, okay, one, I've never seen my real mom get loved properly by
Right.
a brown man, right? And then my dad is also a Black activist fighting for all of these Black people and they don't support him or
Yeah.
they're like not in his favor or not standing beside him. He's risking his life for that. So early on, I started to date outside of my race. Like my very first boyfriend was
Yes.
outside of my race because I thought that my first husband was from Pakistan.
Really?
Yeah, because I thought that I've never seen a brown person outside of my godfather, which I thought was an anomaly, love someone.
Gotcha.
So, how was it for you? Like, do you believe that how you were raised in a home with your parents loving on each other,
Yeah.
do you believe that that changed your mentality to understand that I deserve this same thing?
Absolutely, absolutely, because I had access to it, right? But I think, different things motivate each of us depending on our circumstance, right? So I also understand certain things differently from my parents who did not have to grow up African American, right? So everything that they have experienced in this country as a married couple is from the lens of being an immigrant. And I had this conversation with my daddy the other day, and I was like, I understand your point of view, but please understand mine. Like, I grew up black in this country, which is just different, right? I was born here. So and I'm a woman.
Yep.
So I've experienced things that you will never experience. And I think it's important for us to, I always tell people, I'm like, the most important thing we can do to each other is understand each other. A lot of times we think it's love and respect, and those things are important too, but you get to those things when you choose to understand someone. And I think understanding that the work my parents put into creating a safe environment, a loving environment, and how much work that took. And again, now that I'm in the position, I just have a deeper appreciation for that. And I have my best friend comes from a divorced home, and just is the most incredible wife and mother. And they have a beautiful family. Her husband is my husband's best friend, and we are best friends. Our first daughters are best friends, and it's just so precious. But again, and she says it all the time, she's like, because I didn't see my mom have that, it made me want it more.
Yeah.
And so it's such a blessing that different things can deeply motivate us to choose and decide differently than what
Yeah.
we knew or saw. And I think that's really important. I hope that for my kids, I always want better for them than I even had for myself. And I hope they even see the mistakes or, the missteps that me and their father have made and make it better for their own marriages, relationships, lives, households. So be it.
Yes, I think that that's so important. Another thing for me, and me and my husband was just really talking about this, because we were raised so differently. I'm from Ohio.
What
He's
part of
from
Ohio?
Cleveland.
I grew up in Pittsburgh, so everything was just right that tri-state area.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Yes, I'm from Cleveland. So my husband is from the South.
Okay.
So he was raised
Yeah.
saying yes, ma'am,
Yep.
no, ma'am, and he instills that into our daughter.
Oh yeah.
But when she doesn't say it, I forget.
Yeah, you're just like it's not a big deal to
Yeah,
you.
it's
Yeah.
not a big deal because I'm not conditioned to saying that. Like I've
Mm-hmm.
never said yes, ma'am, to or no, ma'am,
Yeah.
to anyone in my whole life before I met him. Like, and so I'm so not used to it. So now how it is very important for me,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like my husband is always saying, you don't have to explain anything to her. She's a kid, right?
Yeah.
And like for me, she'll say, why? Like if she's like, Mom, can I have a snack? I'm like, no. And she's like, well, why? I'm
Yeah.
like, well, you need to eat dinner
Yeah.
and you need to eat something
Oh
healthy
yeah.
before dinner. And he's like, I think kids need to just say, you just need to say no. And I'm like, I
Mm.
know, but there's a little bit of trauma
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
from how I was raised,
Absolutely.
where there were things that I needed my mom to explain to me,
Right.
and
Right.
she didn't. And then I left and searched the world for that answer
Come on.
instead of instead of her taking that 1 second. Like, I feel like we come from a day and age where it's like, because I said so,
That's it.
or,
That's it.
do you got this McDonald's money? Like, I come from that day and age, and I just don't want to bring. I only have one daughter, and I honestly don't think that I'm gonna have more kids.
Okay.
I love being. I don't know. I don't know how I can love like another one, right? Like,
There, it's possible.
I have my goddaughter. Like, I just feel like I'm at my capacity,
For sure.
And I just want to do right by her,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I believe that if I do right by this one, then God will give me the opportunity to do it again. And so, you know how they say like, "Oh, your first kids, you did it wrong. Now the second kid, you like figuring it out," because you don't know.
You just
So,
don't know.
my question is, what things that you okay, let me figure out how to reframe this question. My question is there trauma that you experienced growing up that you said, okay, I'm not going to do this with my children now? Like, and how has that worked, especially with you having a public platform? Because there are
Mm.
so many Instagram parents telling
Yes.
us how to parent our children,
Yep.
telling, oh, they shouldn't wear this, they should wear this, oh, gender neutral, and
Yep.
all these other things. What is it that you like? For me, I want my daughter to feel like she can communicate with me in any way. And I want to
Right.
be able to explain it. And there's times when I'm just going to say no because mommy said no, and that's why you can't go.
Yeah.
But I feel like we are in a generation of social media.
Mm-hmm.
We're in a generation of computers and just a world that we were not privy to when
Absolutely.
we grew up.
Yep.
And now our kids can search for answers if
Mm-hmm.
they don't get it from us.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I think I truly believe every single one of us experiences trauma. I think definitely there's different levels and deeper layers and different things like that. Again, being raised by immigrant parents who just didn't experience things in a childhood in a country like this, in a time that I grew up, definitely was tough because you would try to explain yourself and it'd be like, well, you just need to get over it, or you need to, all these things that kind of got dismissed. And it's just like, even if I would have had the room to explain myself, I definitely would have felt a lot better. And I think I went to express myself in different ways to other people. And that's why I was probably so eager to leave home when I did. And for me, because of that, I try to make sure that I create an open environment where my kids can ask questions. And it forces me to become not only a better parent, but a better communicator because I now have to articulate why the answer is no. And sometimes the answer is like, I don't feel comfortable with you being in an environment like that. That's why you're not going. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And that's the answer. But I just also think it's such a cop out, and it's a cop out, and this isn't a slight to our parents. I just don't think they had the emotional tools.
Mm.
Um, but a lot of times it's such a cop out to be like, because I said so.
Yeah.
And it's like, I want to be able to have conversations with my kids, not only at this stage, but certainly when they're older. It's so important to me to be the kind of mother where I'm raising someone who I want to be around when they're an adult, and I want to create a relationship and an environment in our relationship where they want to be around me when they grow up as well. And I think that starts from when they're little. And, again, we're all doing the best we can, but I think it's my goal to be really emotionally intelligent so I can also raise somebody who's emotionally intelligent, because that doesn't just benefit our relationship, that benefits anything they do, wherever they work. If they decide to start a business and they're leading a group of people, when they, not only get married but have kids, all of that is affected. And so that's my goal, is to create a safe environment. And me and my husband were raised very differently, very differently. And so there's things where he's like, well, it's not even that big of a deal, and I'll be like, oh, and he's the one who can explain himself. I was raised by two very impatient West African parents, so I usually would be the one like, well, because I said so, I ain't got nothing else today. And he's so good with breaking things down and being patient and listening and stuff like that. So I think it's also about, if you do have the opportunity to, you're married and you can and parent with somebody else,
Yeah.
I think that's where the benefit comes in for sure. Because it's like, where you fall short, somebody can be like, hey, we can handle this better.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And that's
absolutely.
exactly what partnership is about,
Yeah. I think that for every mom or future mom that's watching this episode, you should really think about, like for me, it took me to write down everything that caused me trauma. Everything, like
Mm.
being raised broke,
Mm.
being told no, being told, oh, you don't need I don't need to tell you why. Or all of those things, like there were a lot of insecurities that I felt like my mother imposed on me because
Absolutely.
she had her own
Yeah.
insecurities of, things that she's experienced. So I think that you should write down all of those things
Yep.
and make sure that you don't bring them into your life now.
Yep.
Like for me, I had to literally say to myself, the generation curse stops with me. Like,
Yes.
there will not be any more lineage of broke people in my family. Like, it stops with
Yep.
me. My daughter is going to understand money. She's going to
Yep.
understand wealth.
Yep.
She's going to understand what true love looks like.
Yeah.
She's going to understand what non negotiables look like. She's going to understand all of those things that I experienced that put me in a world of trying a bunch of stuff or being scared
Yeah.
to try a
Fear.
bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Like I grew up very fearful. Still to this day, I've never drank. I've never
Really?
smoked. I've never like there are so many things I've never done because I was like, my
Yeah.
life, I'm
Yeah.
so scared. Like
Yeah.
I've already been broke. They already said I wasn't good enough. They already said I wasn't talented enough. They already said I wasn't cute enough. So I can't be drunk and not cute enough, or broke
Ooh,
and not
come
cute enough,
on.
or broke and not smart enough. Like
Yeah.
I'm not half of the things that I should be. So let me not pour or indulge into things that would make me further a statistic.
Right. Right. Right.
So
Yeah.
it was that,
Yeah.
like, so I think at some point as a mom, you have to stop
Yeah.
and really evaluate because we go into cycles
Yeah.
of what is already
Right.
comfortable.
Right. Right.
Like I remember one thing as I started to get money and grow my business is I remember my mom used to always say, "Oh, that money is burning a hole in your pocket." Like, and I never understood it until I actually had made my first $1 million. And then I was sitting at my accountant's desk and I was like literally bawling because I had nothing to show for it. I wasn't driving my dream car. I didn't live where I dreamed of. And I had no money in the bank
Yep.
and was literally struggling to figure out payroll. And I'm like, why is this continuous to happen? And she was like, let's talk about your past money trauma. Like, let's talk about why you're overspending. Let's talk about this.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. And then she's like, when you think about money, what comes to your mind
Right.
first?
Right.
And literally the thing that I said was, oh, I know that it burns a hole in your pocket. And she's like, yeah, that's how you think. So you're
Yep.
scared to accumulate it.
Yep.
Like once it gets to a certain place in your bank account, you're always spending it. You need more. You need more of this, more of that. You need to hire more. You need to do all these things because you're scared to actually see it
Yeah.
because you're worried about what comes with actually accumulating money.
Yep. 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 So good.
That
That's so
was
good. No, and it's so good to have these conversations. I have, I have had so many of these conversations in therapy, and I wrote my first book last year, Everyday Magic, and in the book, I talk about how we talk about time because a lot of us have that attitude and approach to time too. You know what I mean? Time is flying. You know what I mean? Time is running out. We all think we're operating at a deficit.
Yep.
Right, and you have to be careful not to have a mindset of lack in any capacity, in money, in time. I think it's really important to respect those things. And I think it's okay to understand that you need to use those things wisely, but that doesn't mean that because you used it or you didn't use it wisely in the past, that you will always be like that,
Yeah.
right? It's always appropriate to change for the better. It's always a great time to get better, always. But I think understanding, going back to that, and I think you made such a good point with writing all those things down, all those traumas down to release them. But I think that's important just as a person, certainly as a mother for sure, because you don't want to pass those things on to your children, but just as a person, how you want to navigate. And I think we have to understand that being you're good, period. I always say this to my 5-year-old because she said something. She was like, yeah, she was like, well, I want to make sure that I'm not being bad in class. And I'm like, you're always good, right? You're always good because God is good and you're
Yes.
made in his image. So I need you to always understand that. You might be misbehaving, you might not be listening, but you are always good. And I really
I love
want
that.
her to deeply know and understand that. And I say that to all the kids. They'll be like, oh, mom, I think I was being a little bit bad. You're not bad.
Yep.
You are good. You might not have been listening. You might have been in a room I told you not to be in, but you are good.
So many people need to hear that because
So important.
recently I went through that. Like my daughter is so well behaved, well traveled. I mean, like I honestly just feel like I never experienced that like bad or oh my God, I like can't
Yeah.
control my kid.
Yeah.
But recently, we were somewhere and they were like, oh, she wasn't listening. And like when I was talking to her, I'm like, Zoe, you cannot be bad. And I'm like, I need new words.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I don't want to
Yeah.
say
Yeah.
bad. I don't want to say you're being bad, but I didn't know what to say
Yeah.
in that time to aggressively explain to her
Absolutely.
that she was in trouble because she wasn't listening.
Right.
So I think so many parents need to hear what you just said,
Right.
like
Right.
because it's just a change in the mind.
One thousand percent.
This episode and conversation is powered by Girl Mob, a digital community for female entrepreneurs everywhere.
But even to your point where you were just saying, because this is language I've had to rewire within myself, because she's also not in trouble. She's in such a great life. She may now lose a privilege, right? Or maybe now this is a consequence of her behavior, but she's not in trouble. And I think really being careful with the kind of language that we're using with our children is not only vital because you love that person, right? They're your child, so you want them to always feel loved and safe. But what I understand now, especially just through years of therapy, is often our self-talk comes from how our parent talked to us. Our
Yes.
self-talk often comes from how we're parented. So it's so important to me to make sure that I'm using language where it's like, I never say you are mean, right?
I want to interrupt this podcast to let you know that I created the most dynamic group of female entrepreneurs and aspiring women that just honestly want more in life. So, if you're looking for courses, classes, meetups, if you want to travel the world with like minded women, you need to be a part of Girl Mob. We are a bunch of girls, but the focus is on you. So, sign up for Girl Mob, GURLMOBB.com. I can't wait to see you on the inside.
So if my oldest is frustrated with her younger siblings, it's like, hey, let's not speak mean to them, right? Like the action is what has the characteristic, but you are always going to be good. You might have done something that was inappropriate, that wasn't fair, that was impatient, but that doesn't mean that you're bad or in trouble. And that's something I always want them to understand.
I love that. Like, this is every single girl listening to this. Oh my God, you should just feel so much healing because I feel healed, Like hearing you speak, I'm always looking to learn from other moms. I'm always looking to be the best person possible,
Yeah.
And I think that it's so important that we use our language to not only empower our kids, but empower ourselves.
Yes,
Like,
yes,
how
yes.
many times you are literally your worst enemy?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
you are
Oh, my
literally
gosh. Are you
not
kidding?
accomplishing your dreams in life because of the conversation you have
With
with
yourself.
yourself.
That's
But
it.
literally, I always say this, like people be like, oh, they're sleeping on me, the world is sleeping on me, or no, love, you're sleeping on you.
That's it.
You're sleeping on your gifts. You're sleeping on your talents. You're sleeping on your true potential. You are sleeping on the fact
That's
that
it.
you could be a millionaire, a billionaire. We look at what other people have
Yep.
and we desire those things and we say, oh, it's because of this or it's because of that.
Yep.
You are looking at a girl that literally came from mom trauma, the most, I would say, toxic mom relationship. You're looking at someone who sister committed suicide in high school. You're looking at my first boyfriend died of gun violence. You're looking at I've been homeless. You're looking at I've made it through one divorce and still almost millions of dollars later
Yes.
built the life that I desired and
Yes.
dreamed of because I knew that I had the potential to do it and
Yeah.
no one else couldn't do it for me and no one else couldn't tell me how to do it.
Yeah.
I had
Yes.
to talk
Yes.
myself through every single dark night, through every single dark moment, through every single bright day when I felt like, oh my God, I accomplished so much, but no one's clapping for me. Guess what? I was in
Clap
the audience
for
clapping for
yourself,
myself.
baby, because clapping for yourself counts. And that's
Yes.
what I want people to know. And I don't know who this is for, but God has not forgotten about you. It is so deeply important that you do not lose faith in yourself because it is the thing that is going to get you to the next day day to the next deal, to the next job, to the next opportunity. And, that is the thing that's the reason why I wrote Everyday Magic, because I wanted people to know, like, every day you have to renew your mind. Every day. Magic is about making it meaningful, aesthetically pleasing, goal oriented, intentional, and consistent. It's not
I
about
love
being
that.
perfect. This is about making magic. You are the magic. You are the magic. And so when you really understand that and you start operating from a place where you're aiming to make something meaningful, your relationships, the connections, whether it's a first time connection or this is your best friend from childhood, making something meaningful will always matter. I talk about aesthetics all the time because I think a lot of times people from the outside may seem like, oh, it's materialistic. Aesthetics is about safety. When something is aesthetically pleasing to you, it really tells you, your spirit, your insides, that you feel safe, right? Whether it's a hotel we're checking into, whether it's a store we're walking into, whether it's the way somebody's wearing their face, right? If somebody's face is screwed up and they're walking by you, you know what I mean? That doesn't feel safe,
Yeah,
right?
correct.
Versus if somebody's smiling. So aesthetic is about making you feel safe. And that's something that I want people to start to consider, because it's not just about being materialistic. I say it in the book. It's one of my favorite lines in the book. I'm like, I am a materialistic person, but I also understand that things are not more important than people. So once you have things in order, once you have your priorities in order and you can be honest about who you are, that's the magic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You definitely have to have goals, because you always need to have something that you're working towards, whether it's small, medium, or big. And being intentional is so important, because the intention gives you the power.
Yes.
Intentionality gives you power. And then you got to be consistent. My sister Maya Elias said it the other day. She was like, doing something for 2 weeks is not consistency. Come at me when you have done
But
something
that's
for
what's so
12
true.
weeks The girls be posting for 2 weeks and they be like, I don't understand why I don't have a million followers. And it's like, well, honey, do that for, I don't know, 2 years and then come see me?
Oh my goodness. Don't read me today because literally I was telling my assistant, I was like, I ate a salad yesterday, so I'm feeling so healthy.
Are we twins? Because I'm like, okay, I ate a salad today. I don't understand why I don't have abs. I don't
Literally,
understand.
like, why? Where is the weight loss going? I ate a salad yesterday, 4 grapes this morning. Like, what's happening? I ate avocado toast.
It's like, I don't understand what's happening? And it's just like, and consistency is tough, because
Yeah.
it is real deliberate commitment.
Yes.
It's commitment when you are motivated. It's commitment when you're unmotivated. It's commitment when it's raining outside. It's commitment when it's sunny outside. It's commitment regardless. And I think just understanding that really does help you, because I think a lot of times we try to forget about, we do two things. We either harp on what we're bad at, or we harp at what we're good at.
Yep.
And it's about being honest about the middle part. You know what I mean? We're not our highest moments and we're not our lowest moments. We are what we do every day. That is
Yes.
why the thing was called Everyday Magic, because I was like, this is
I
about what you
love
do
that
every
name.
day.
I love that name.
Thank you.
So, with Everyday Magic, do you believe that there was a time that you've lost your magic? And if so, how did you find it? Because I think so many women are struggling to, based upon the world and Instagram and social media, they're like, my magic is in my body, my hair, my talents, how amazing I can craft a reel
Yeah.
or I can craft a caption to captivate my audience. Like, was there a time where you felt like you lost your magic? And if so, how did you find it?
Such a good question. I don't think that any one of us loses our magic. I think we either lack awareness of it or lose awareness of it. And I think that's really important to understand, because there is something meaningful to you. There's something aesthetically pleasing to you, goal oriented to you, intentional to you, consistent about you in every single stage in your life, right? Whether you just got out of college, whether you just had your first baby, or whether you just made your first million, there's some level of magic about you. And that's why I love magic, because it changes as you change, right? And that's wonderful. Like, when in 15 years, in 15 years, I will have a 23-year-old, right? So that magic will be different, right? The magic that is within our relationship. But I also, the subtitle of the book is The Joy of Not Being Everything and Still Being More Than Enough. I think the
Wow.
mistake that we make as women is that we try to be everything to everybody, especially once we become moms and wives. It's like, I got to do everything for everybody. And it's like, for me, and I tell this story in the book, but it became really performative. And you are your best, you are your most magic self when you are simply being, right?
Girl,
There is
I'm gonna flip this couch over.
there is not
I'm about to
one
flip this couch
single mistake
over.
about you when you are just simply being. And the best example I can give you is like when you are with like your best friend on the planet and you are just being yourself. That is when you are your most magic, because you just show up as yourself. You're not showing up to perform, to pretend you're something that you're not, to make sure that you're automatically pleasing someone. And I think that is something that happens in the everyday, because it's really taxing to perform and pretend every day, you know? But when nobody's looking at your routines, when nobody's looking at what you're eating, these are decisions you have to make for yourself. And that's why that self-talk is huge. That's why self-care is huge. It's like, if I'm not good at taking care of myself, can I truly take care of my husband, truly take care of my kids in a way that is real and that I don't have any resentment, right? Because you can, because it is possible to take care of others and you're not taking care of yourself, but can you do that with a clear heart? Because baby, you got to keep that heart clear.
So, being a little transparent,
Yeah.
right? I feel like in November, my company scaled and I had so many employees, like almost 50 employees,
Wow.
right? And they were in my office. So, it's not like virtual assistants.
They're here.
These are these are personalities. These are hairstyles. These are snapping fingers, rolling eyes, late call offs. These are real
That's a
problems,
lot.
right? And I battled with understanding, I battled with separating them understanding me as a person and realizing that they can love me as a person but not love their job as a business, right? And I didn't understand that because I'm like, if you see me struggling to grow
Right,
this
right,
business,
right.
if you see me in here to 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night, how dare you
Yeah.
respect what I'm building?
Yeah, yeah.
Not for me. I'm building it for you. I'm
Yeah.
building it for your kids. I'm building,
Yeah.
this is a job that you can come to where you're not forced to be a certain way, fake it till you make it. And like, I am building this thing for you
Right.
and for all of the other creatives that come after you, and
Yeah.
for you to for take
Granted.
advantage of it
Yeah.
and take it for granted. It really charged me emotionally
Absolutely.
because I feel like most people, we give so many opportunities to people that look like us and we see ourselves in them, and then they take advantage of our time, our
Yeah.
money, the opportunity.
Yeah.
And it kind of makes you feel like, well, who do I hire then? And
Yes.
who do I trust with something that I'm building to be so much greater? And you look at, like, when people leave and they go work at Amazon or they go work at
Yeah.
any other corporate company and they're just a number there,
Yes. Yes.
they don't do
Yeah.
what they do to us.
Yes.
They don't show up. We can have handbooks, policies, and everything in place, and they don't act like that to us. So I kind of felt like between that, having a bunch of employees where I felt like I'm giving my magic every day. Like, I'm
Woo,
telling you what to
baby.
do, how to say it, how to post, how to show up, what I'm giving it. And having an agency where I have clients that depend on me,
Right.
I'm also giving them my magic.
Yep.
I'm telling them what to do, how to show up, how to say, where to be, where to go, writing captions, creating reels. I'm creating that momentum for their individual businesses. Then I'm at home.
Yep.
And even though I may leave and drive an hour and rebuild myself up
Yep. Yep. Yep.
in that ride home, I come home and have to do it all
Over
again.
again. Yep.
I have to give my daughter encouragement. I have to read the books. I have to
Yep.
be excited. I have to tell her, like, one thing that's very important to me is I feel like, in 35 years, I never heard my mom ask me, "Are you happy?" I've never heard my mom ask me, like, how are you doing for real? And I think a lot of people watch, and a lot of family members watch my social media, and a lot of friends watch my social media. They're like, "Girl, you good? You're in Turkey, you're in Bali."
Yeah.
Girl, no, I'm at home
Yeah.
crying.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm at
I've
home
had a
stressed
hard
out
day.
about how I'm gonna build this thing. And so I always have to remind myself and to the people around me, including my daughter. And she always looks at me and says, "Mom, are you happy?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Yes, I am happy." And and I explain it to her. And I ask her, "Are you happy?" Because I feel like that conversation is not, like, we don't address that
It's not a
enough.
deliberate,
It's not something
yeah.
that we talk about all the time. It's like, hey girl, how are you? You're like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm good. You're really not good,
Yes.
right? And so I think for me, I felt like I lost my magic. And I didn't
Mm,
feel like I lost it. I feel like I gave it away
mm.
to everyone else. And when it came time to me thinking about who I really was, I had to take a trip to go and find my magic again.
And I'll challenge this. I always tell people that happiness is overrated. And I'll tell you why. Happiness is overrated because it's based off of something that happened. That's why it's happiness. Words mean things. And I always challenge people. I'm like, baby, don't take it from me. Go Google it. You know what I mean? Like, go Google it. Go look for yourself, because I never want to misinform anybody. The thing I always ask my kids and I ask my husband, do you have joy? And you can go to my house right now and ask my 8-year old what we have in our house, and she gonna tell you peace. Baby, I'll take peace over happiness, and I definitely will take
Yes.
joy because, and I said this one time on a live, I was saying, I was like, I am a light. Like, joy is just within me. It is my birthright. So whether I work at Target or whether I am the CEO of $1 million company, I'm going to be good because there is joy. It is just innately in me. I woke up this morning. I have all of my senses. I have all of my limbs. I have a man who is obsessed with me and he loves me. I have 3 healthy kids. Nothing is wrong with them and stuff like that. I can figure it out.
Yes.
And and you have to circle, you have to do that every day. You got to do that every day, because I literally on Friday I was just bawling my eyes out to my husband. I was just like, I just don't feel confident. I feel like I used to do this and now I don't do this anymore. And he looked at me, he's like, you have everything you have ever wanted. He's like, keep it in perspective. And I and I know we got to go soon, but I have to say this. The other thing we have to pay attention to is 2 things, especially women. One, how we operate based off of daylight. I just got done reading a book called Change Your Schedule, Change Your Life. Because when there is more sunlight around, and the study of how your body reacts to sunlight is called chronobiology, if I'm not mistaken. And we operate differently when there's more sunlight, right? The way you actually function, right, biologically in the summer is different than the winter, just off of sunlight alone, just off of sunlight alone. So you can actually, because there's longer days, longer amounts of daylight, you can eat less in the summer because your body just feels lighter, right? In the winter, when we're pretty much hibernating, we're eating more meats, we're eating more fish and stuff like that, and it's a dry season, so we need to eat more oils. We need to actually hydrate our bodies a lot more. So it's really about, and that's why I talk about awareness so much, because these are things that have just come to me. I'll be 39 in May, and I'm like, how did I just find this out? Like, why y'all didn't tell me, The other thing, and this is huge for women, I literally just told my best friend about this, is our cycles as women, right? I think there's like that age old, joke was like, oh, she's PMSing. Oh, she's going to have an attitude because she's on her period. And it's like, actually, if we break it down, there is 4 stages of your cycle. There's menstruation, there's follicular, ovulation, and luteal. In follicular and luteal, your energy is up. When you are on your period, menstruation, and ovulating, your energy is down. I literally have in my Google Calendar when each week is, because baby, we launching on a high energy week. I'm not doing anything when my energy is down. If I'm ovulating, there's like no call scheduled. Like, it's a no call. I have no call weeks, because I'm like, if I don't have the energy, I won't be able to fully. And again, I'm deeply fortunate because I make my own schedule. I have a team. I have somebody scheduling things for me. But because I know these things, I literally, when I read that, I was like, girl, let me go ahead and backtrack. And I literally put it in my Google
Wow.
Calendar. It's secret. So, like, basically, if you don't work on my team, you can't see it, right? I don't want them to, like, open up my Google Calendar. It's like, does that say menstruation? But it's like, girl, I need to know, because I need to know how to schedule these. So
Absolutely.
we're literally launching my course when I'm in my luteal stage, because that's when your energy is the highest. And so I now understand not only to daylight, but based off of my cycle, how to eat, how I'm going to show up. And then
Wow.
I can be like, then I can kind of go to Chris and be like, I actually don't have the bandwidth to have this talk with the kids. Could you handle that? Because
Yes.
if I'm going to come from a place where I am very hormonal, I need to be able to understand that and not put myself in a situation where I either have to apologize for something later, I said something that I regretted, or anything like that. being that aware of not only your mind, but your body, your heart is huge. And it's truly changed the game for me.
Wow. So, mom, boss, wife, you've done it all. You have a company called Boss Influence.
Yes.
Tell me about that really quickly.
So Boss Fluence is
Boss
my,
Fluence.
yes, Boss Fluence. So, you know, we were kind of talking before we jumped into the interview, but it was really important to me to work with creators. One, because I love being a creator. It is literally what has put me in the position to become an author, to become a CEO, to get my husband to leave his Fortune 50 job to come work for me. So
Wow.
I don't take being a creator lightly. I think there's so many incredible opportunities. And I'm also not somebody who has a million followers, because
Yeah.
I think for a long time I thought to be in the position I'm in now, I had to have a million followers. And that's why I started it, because it's like you can have a modest following and make good money because you understand the business of being an influencer.
Yes.
So, you know, we're an organization that provides resources. I have a signature program called Pitch Please. But my goal is to teach, honestly, I would love to teach a million creators the business of influencer marketing and how to become an entrepreneur, because I want to make sure that creators, especially creators that look like us, I want them to understand that the possibilities are endless. I want them to have flexibility, to have more time for their families. I want them to make the kind of money that they can not only help themselves and help their kids, but help their communities. You know, anytime women are economically successful, literally like countries thrive. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So I think that's really important. And so Boss Fluence, we have over 9,000 members. We have a private Facebook group, and we are actually going to be going into the paid membership model really soon, and we're really excited about it, because I really just wanted to create a safe space.
Yeah.
Safety is so huge to me. I wanted to create a safe space online where people who look like you, who have similar goals, who are just starting like you guys can all talk, you guys can bounce ideas off of each other, you guys can learn together, you guys can fellowship together. That's what Boss Fluence is all about. So I'm really excited about that.
We have to do a part two because, like, I can have this conversation. I think that more moms need to sit together and talk
Yeah.
about we should be learning from each other.
1000%.
I think a lot of times we are so conditioned to be like, oh, I know that. I did that with my
Oh, yeah.
mom.
Oh, yeah.
Or I experienced that. Like, I'm going to raise my kids the way I want to raise my kids.
Yep.
And it's like, just this conversation opened my eyes to so much. So much, Mattie.
I'm so
This has
glad.
been amazing. You guys make sure you follow her on Instagram,
Yes.
Mattie James.
Yeah, the Mattie James.
The Mattie
The
James.
Mattie James, and MattieJames.com is my site. You can read my content, and you can, of course, find Boss Fluence at bossfluence.com as well.
And make sure you get the book Everyday Magic. Until the next episode, you guys, I hope you loved it. Please like, comment, and subscribe. We need to know your feedback.